grass. The sleet is actually just staying there and kind of getting icier. So that's what we're seeing now, which of course is not good for the roads, Chris.
Yeah, well, be safe out there. Yvonne said she really likes your boots. Stay warm, be safe, and yeah, we're going to continue to keep everybody updated, and let's hope that trend in the less precipitation that you're noticing falling continues across Central Texas.
You know, we talk about dressing appropriately, and Connor is dressed appropriately.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to slip, so you need those sturdy boots with the rubber soles. Very good. All right, you know, the other big concern this morning is power. We keep talking about that. Right now, this is what the Austin Energy power outage map looks like. At this point, there are more than 1,000 people without power. Of course, we're going to continue to keep looking at this map, making sure that we know of any new outages to tell you about. But at this point, we're at about 1,000 people without power.
And that's just at Austin Energy itself, but statewide, last report talking about 54,000 state outages across Texas. Now, the city of Austin is suspending several services today because of the weather. Trash and recycling pickup from Austin Resource Recovery is canceled. COVID-19 testing and vaccine sites will be closed through Friday. All parks and recreation facilities are also closed. It's important to note all essential public safety services will continue.
And our first responders are working hard this morning to keep everybody safe.
We appreciate them so much. Tony Pileski joining us right now with more on what EMS is doing.
And of course, we are continuing to reach out to all of our first responders throughout the region. But right now, we want to bring in Chief Jasper Brown. He is the interim chief of Austin Travis County EMS here in the city of Austin and serving Travis County. Chief, just a quick question this morning. Can you give us the current situation? How are things looking out there for your crews at this time?
Good morning, Tony. Thank you for contacting us. It is very hazardous. I would advise people not to be on the roads unless they absolutely have to. We've had a few accidents. I've just heard you report on I-35 and 130, and the reporter reported earlier about somebody who drove around the barricade, and we had to do a water rescue. So please be advised that do not drive around barriers. They're there for your safety and to keep our people out of hazardous conditions themselves. And we don't want to be placing our first responders in situations.
So at this point, you are aware of one water rescue. Any others that have been reported? I know that the rain really fell hard overnight, and particularly in some of our low-lying areas, it has accumulated on the roads.
Just what's been reported already, and I'm sure you can go to the austintexas.gov flood maps and see what roads are closed. But we did have a lot of rain overnight, and those are going to cause problems for people, although they should stay off the roads. There's no reason to get out to go look around to see what's out there. It's very hazardous to be driving on the roads. So unless you absolutely have to be somewhere, please stay off the roads. It'll keep our first responders safe.
Chief, I want to talk to you about how you have deployed your staff for an event like this.
So our Emergency Operations Center for the city and county has been open since last night. They're coordinating the overall response to the city and county. For the department, we've opened up our Department Operations Center, which is coordinating the internal department's response. We've deployed traction devices or chains for the ambulances if needed. They're not currently needed, but if road conditions and icing continues, we may need to go ahead and put those on our trucks. But for right now, we've got people ready to respond. We brought crews in earlier so they don't have to drive on the roads in the morning. They came in last night to be prepared for shift change. So we're ready for whatever comes. But, again, if people heed all the warnings about staying indoors, not going outside, it'll lessen the impact overall for responses.
I know that every agency, including yours following the winter storm last year, has really done a look back on successes, but also shortcomings, and then changing their plans, altering their plans, revising their plans based on that. Can you just talk about some of the lessons learned for Austin Travis County EMS last year that you're now putting in place this time?
Sure. One of the first things, we ordered the chains early on last year as soon as we identified the right type of chains for our vehicles, because the ambulances are very heavy, so you can't just order something off the shelf. We just got those in literally a week ago. They were stuck in some shipping containers, much like the rest of the world's problems are having with supplies. But we just got those in, so chains are the biggest thing we're seeing. We've also put what we call winter boxes into the stations, which have some little cleats that the medics can put onto their shoes. That'll help them in the icy conditions. They've also got some de-icer for their trucks, some absorbent that'll help if their small areas need to be sanded down around their station so they're not slipping and falling. And we've also have extra water and what we call hiker grade meals ready to eat in case we need to deploy food for them today.
Things that I'm sure that a year ago you never thought you would necessarily be doing like you are right now. Chief, I also want to ask you, we've talked about conditions on the roadways and the importance for people not getting on the roadways, but one of the things that we've seen from past experiences here is a heavy call number for slip and falls. So can you just talk about, as people maybe venture outside their homes this morning, the risk is not just in getting on the road, it's falling down in your driveway.
It's falling down to your driveway, right on your porch, onto your sidewalk. Any of those areas are going to be really iced over and more likely to freeze and continue to freeze throughout the day. It'll probably be very hard to see that it's even frozen or iced over. And so just people going outside, I know many people don't go get their mail or their newspaper first thing in the morning, but they want to go see what's going on, go take pictures, and that first step out your door could be a very hazardous one, so please be careful.
Chief, one last question, and we appreciate your time with us this morning. I want to just talk to you about how your staff overall is doing. Certainly our frontline personnel, our medics, have truly been through a lot over the past couple of years, not only with the pandemic, of course, but also with the winter storm of 2021. So how are your folks doing?
I'm sure a few of them this morning are weary about a year ago, what happened, and the several days of freezing temps. So by all accounts, I think the weather's going to maybe lean to our favor this year, not have something like last year by all the reports from KVUE and others. So, but you're right. It's been 2 long years of frontline responding to COVID, Winter Storm Uri, Omicron, the different spikes that have occurred. The medics are very worn down, but they are the face and of EMS. They do an outstanding job. They are dedicated, and they're here to serve you in the time of need. We just ask that you please try to limit the need by staying off the roadways. Be careful not going outside and venturing, slipping, and falling. Obviously, if you need EMS for a medical emergency, please call 911. And we'll be there for you. But the medics here at Austin Travis County EMS and across the state of Texas are dedicated personnel, and they love to serve.
Interim EMS Chief Jasper Brown, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really, really appreciate it. Yvonne and Rob really underscoring there that we all have a role to play this morning in keeping ourselves safe so that we don't generate a call for an ambulance.
I love when he said that. I mean, I think our EMS workers have been through so much already. It's been quite a couple of years. So if we could just limit that and help them out, we should do our part. You're so right, Tony. Thanks so much. And before we head to break, we are also hearing from our viewers, which I love to hear about the conditions taking place there. I know Rob and Lockhart let us know that ice is forming there, all the wet surfaces. He's noticing that those are starting to ice over. Julia in Georgetown reached out to us saying, man, I'm seeing a lot of sleet. And then Alberto in Westlake Hills is saying that all the sleet there in their yard and on their back porch, it just looks like snow. That's similar to what Connor was talking about as well. So we're going to check in with Bryce after a quick break to see what the road conditions are looking like.
And if you have your pictures or videos, send them to us. We want to see it. Use the hashtag DaybreakATX. It's 7:25.
Tonight,
I'm a fighter. My entire career, that's been my reality.
Black actresses in Hollywood speaking their truth.
This is my story. My story. My story. Our story. This wasn't easy.
Screen Queens Rising. Tonight on ABC.
Perspective to me is finding that middle ground where the truth lies in every story that we tell on KVUE.
It is your time. Welcome back to our continuing coverage on this winter storm. It's getting messy out there, so we want to give you an idea of what is going on.
Yeah, our crews have been carefully driving around all morning during the storm. KVUE's Bryce Newberry joining us now from the passenger seats of the storm chaser. Where are you and what have you been seeing on the roads?
Robin Yvonne, yes, in the passenger seat. JP is driving us very safely this morning. We are right now on 183 heading northbound, and as you know, 183 is an elevated surface right around Burnett Road and Lamar Boulevard, so we saw a lot of ice that we just passed over. But I'll take you outside right now so you can see the conditions. This is not the elevated part of 183, so it's looking a little bit better, but there's definitely a lot of slush out here that we've seen. Kind of all of the car that we're driving in has been iced over. The mirrors have a layer of ice over them. There's some slush stuck to the running board of the car that we're in. So the conditions are not great. You can also probably see over on the left of your screen, I'm hoping. Yeah, you can see over there where there's some ice that has accumulated. And as Connor has mentioned this morning, it does kind of look like snow, but I did just get out of the car and kind of stomp around in it and touch it. It is not snow. It's not like pretty fluffy white snow. It's kind of crunchy, gross ice. So that is what we're seeing this morning. And really where we are right now, these conditions are pretty good, but the flyovers are where we've seen a lot of the issues. And of course, that was the concern going into today because, well, that's an elevated surface and there's more room for the air, the cold air underneath to help freeze over that elevated surface. So those are, but here like on 183 where we are right now, it's really not too bad. And of course, this is one of the major roadways that TxDOT did pre-treat. But as conditions have worsened, the temperatures have stayed below freezing. We're at 30 degrees, it says in the car right now. The method has changed, so now crews are out using de-icing materials, things like magnesium chloride or sand to help bust some of the ice that's out on the roads. You can see that car in front of us though, and you can see that it's kind of slushy with what people are dealing with. dealing with on 183 right now. Robin, Yvonne?
Yeah, we'll continue chatting with you, Bryce, but a couple questions. I know you've been out on the roads since around, I would say maybe 3:30 or 4. So the progression, let's talk about what you've been experiencing with the temperatures, and then also let's talk about the drivers, because I think everybody thinks they can drive in this weather and we're not used to it. So it's like, you know, it's okay to say I'm not that great at driving on slippery roads. Who is? You know what I mean? So let's talk about what you're experiencing with that as well.
Well, when we were on I-35 northbound in the last hour of our coverage, we saw one car that had kind of spun out from the far left lane. The front of it had been all damaged as after it had hit the median, the barrier, the concrete barrier. And so police were responding there. Oh, I want to show you outside again, because you can see that now where we are, that was a bridge. The conditions here are not the greatest. But what
Oh no. He just said the conditions aren't the greatest, and then we lost him.
I apologize.
Yeah.
We're going to try and get back a hold of Bryce in just a moment. But yeah, the thing is, you're not, no matter how good of a driver you think you are, Yvonne, when you're driving on ice, it's not the same as anything else.
It's okay to say I'm not that great. I mean, I know I'm not that great at driving in just regular nice roads. You know what I mean? So I think it's okay. Stay off the roads if you can. I mean, I think that's what we all need to do our part, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's check the roads right now if you are having to hit the road, if you are an essential worker. Chris, what is it looking like out there? I'm seeing a lot of icons that don't look good.
Yeah, there's a lot going on traffic-wise. We're really starting to see those roadways ice over across all of Travis County, including all of Austin. You can see that it snuck its way through Hayes County into Williamson County. So as that freezing line continues to work its way toward the southeast, those road conditions are going downhill. So I-35 becoming messy, especially the elevated surfaces, the bridges, the overpasses, some of those on-ramps becoming quite messy out there, and that extends all the way into the hill country as well. So it's becoming a very dangerous morning out there. Stay inside. Don't get out on the roadways unless you have to, and if you do have to, you want to make sure you give yourself some extra distance between you and the car in front of you, and give yourself quite a bit of extra time on those roadways, because again, they look wet, but a lot of them are becoming icy as those temperatures continue to decrease across the area. Taking a look across the Austin Metro, look at all the icons popping up. So that's indicating there are several stalled vehicles. We have accidents. There are obstructions in the roadway. Some of that could be caused by the weather, the wet roadways, the icy roadways. So you can see it's a complete mess out there. Stay inside if at all possible. We're not going to focus on each individual accident because there's just so much going on across the area, but I want to show you 290 is a mess. Mopac is a mess. I-35 is a mess. You see all the red, the yellow, the oranges. That's indicating that there are issues on the roadways. And again, that's possibly due to weather. We've noticed as the temperatures have decreased and that precipitation has went from a freezing rain to a sleet, there's been a correlation, and we're noticing more oranges, reds, and yellows popping up on the map. So likely the roadways are becoming icy out there, and that's what TxDOT is indicating. A lot of reports of those icing roadways, and even if it's not a complete glaze at this hour, you kind of have that slushiness, that mess on the roadway, the water that's going to start to freeze over as those temperatures continue to decrease. And in the hill country, Gillespie County, I-10 heading toward El Paso, or coming from El Paso into central Texas, it is a complete mess. We're talking about near standstill conditions out there on I-10. So again, avoid traveling if at all possible this morning. This is a live look. This is looking southbound on I-35 at Sundance Parkway. You can see the roadways, they're wet right now. The elevated ones, boy oh boy, that's most likely ice out there. But here on I-35, most likely you can see traffic going slow. That's probably water, but it's quickly going to freeze over. We're talking about the possibility of a flash freeze because we have those temperatures falling off rather quickly. We are below freezing in Austin. A good reference point, 32. That's freezing. If you are at 32 or below on this map, you are most likely experiencing icy conditions on the elevated roadways, and eventually that's going to transpire and work its way down to the surface. Notice LaGrange, the only spot in central Texas that is above freezing, but LaGrange, Don't worry, not that you want the temperatures to decrease below freezing, but your temperatures are also going to decrease and fall below freezing. And where we have the temperatures 26, 27, 28 degrees, so Georgetown, Blanco, as you work your way into Llano, that's where we have the most issues on the roadways. That's when that really allows for that the ice and the water to freeze on the roadways, becoming quite treacherous. And when you factor in those temperatures continuing to drop, and we're seeing the precipitation continue to move in, you know those roads are only going to continue to go downhill. So if you have to get on the roadway this morning, if you are an essential worker, first off, we want to thank you, all the women and men out there who are essential workers, but you want to make sure you go slow. You want to leave extra space between you and that car in front of you. Maybe have a complete 18-wheeler distance between you and the car in front of you. That way, if that car does stop or come to a skid, you're able to navigate out of that. Now, if your car comes into a skid, you want to make sure you steer into it and let off of the brake. That way you're able to maintain control or regain control of your car. And of course, be careful on the bridges and the overpasses. Any elevated roadway is icy across Central Texas. Every elevated roadway is icy across Central Texas. It looks like water, it is ice, and eventually every roadway is going to become icy in Central Texas, including 290, including Mopac, I-35. They're all going to become icy. 71 over the next couple of hours. Not only do we have the icy, the wintry conditions out there, we have flooding. So earlier in the week, after a drought, we were in a drought across all of Central Texas. We saw 3, 4, 5 inches of rain out there. We saw that daily rainfall record of over 4 inches in Austin. Well, we saw an additional 1 to 2 inches along I-35 overnight, and that allowed for a lot of runoff. And we have those low water crossings that are closed. More than 60 are closed at this hour. That's what these red dots indicate, that we have those closed low water crossings due to water that's going over the roadway. As you saw earlier, Connor outside showing the water continuing to rise where she's located. We'll go back to her here in a little bit. But there's been that at least one high water rescue across the area. So you want to be careful if you are getting on the roads. You be careful for the wintry conditions, but also because we have that flooding across the area, and it's a good reminder, you want to turn around, you don't drown, because it doesn't take a lot of water at all to A, stall the vehicle, B, wash it off of the roadway. So there's a lot going on the roads. Shane, how's everything looking? What are your thoughts on how this event is unfolding so far? We noticed here that we went from a rain to a freezing rain, and we have a lot of sleet now. What are your thoughts on that, and why is that happening?
Well, I think the trend that we're noticing, Chris, is that we are getting more of that sleet starting to factor in. I'm seeing a lot of viewer photos showing pictures of their yards, and they're like, it looks like snow, but a reminder, it's not. We checked in with the National Weather Service, and they said we do not have snowfall reports. We have temperatures in the upper layers of the atmosphere that are simply too warm. We're going to talk a little bit more of that in just a moment, but let me take a live look out over downtown where you can see our web camera has iced over, and it's easy to see why. At the surface, temperatures are 31 degrees, both in Camp Mabry and at the airport. Dew points on the lower end as well, which means that air is able to freeze very quickly. Noticed a hard freeze is being experienced by the hill country. It's been that way overnight, started last night. See that we could maybe see a few snow flurries mixed in there, but this is an ice event for Central Texas. Unfortunately, not really a lot you can do about ice on the roadways. We just have to wait for it to melt and thaw. Yes, we treated the roads, but you recall all that rain that's now starting to transition into a wintry mix could have washed a lot of that treatment off the road. So stay off if you can. Keep in mind, if you have to, if you're emergency management, if you're heading to the hospital, take it slow. Factor in extra time. Temperatures along the I-35 corridor are at freezing. Fayette County, you are now at 34 degrees. Radar will start to pick on maybe a little bit of wintry precipitation high up in the sky, but keep in mind, it's still too warm at the Earth's surface. We'll see that fully transition into freezing rain over the next hour or two, I suspect. You're taking a look right now at some of the storm reports, so just giving you a little indication on what the icons are looking like. We're taking a look at the little icicles. That's indicating freezing rain or where ice is accumulated. As you take a look up to the north, that's going to be maybe more of your sleet. We have seen more reports than this. These are just a few that have been fed into the National Weather Service, okay? Continue to send in your photos, your videos. We love to share them on air. We can't help tell tell the weather story without you, our viewers. But make sure you're doing so safely. As you make your way out to the hill country, they started seeing storm reports as early as last night and early this morning. As you make your way out toward the east, we're already starting to see some sleet reports for areas that have already fallen below freezing. So you're probably curious, Shane, what is the difference between all of these wintry precipitation types you're talking about? We started with rain. That's when the atmosphere is warm enough from upper levels of the atmosphere all the way down to the surface to be above 32 degrees, and it falls as water. Then you have that tricky transition into freezing rain, where we have it warmer than freezing in the upper layers of the atmosphere, but then we have an area, a very small area of freezing temperatures or below freezing temperatures near the surface. So it falls as rain, it hits the ground as rain, and then it super cools and then freezes as ice on the Earth's surface. Then you have sleet. There is a larger gap of freezing temperatures for sleet. So it falls down as water, as moisture, and then freezes, but then since it wasn't frozen at the upper layers of the atmosphere, it falls and bounces off the Earth's surface. That's what we're seeing a lot of reports of, are sleet. That makes for very tricky travel conditions. Then you have snow, okay? That's gonna be 32 degrees or less as you make your way from the surface all the way up through the sky, okay? So that's the difference between the few. Let's take a closer look just to kind of break it down for you. Starting with freezing rain, as you make your way in the upper levels, it could start as snow, but then it warms as we get closer to the surface. But then as we getting right at the surface, there's a small little layer of cold temperature. So right at the surface, but it's warmer right above it, so it freezes once it hits the ground. Sleet, there is a larger difference in temperatures. We have cold that extends a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, but there is that still small window with temperatures above freezing, and that's where it's able to melt and then refreeze as it makes its way towards the Earth. Snow, 32 or below, all the way down, okay? That's the pretty stuff, which unfortunately we're not seeing a lot of. We have seen some pictures of some freezing rain that's created some icicles. This was out in South Austin earlier this morning. You can see Jordan Tarr took a photo out on what appears to be his apartment landing. You can see those icicles, very beautiful, but also very dangerous, especially if you're out on the roads. You shouldn't be, but if you are, notice that a majority of the area is still under that winter storm warning. It goes into effect until 9 o'clock this evening. Ice and sleet accumulations are going to be the main impacts, and then as we go throughout the rest of the day into the overnight period and Friday, we're going to be tracking some bone-chilling wind chills. Let's talk about those ice accumulation impacts. Right now, the totals are showing we could be anywhere up to 1/3 of an inch. Some isolated pockets could make it up to the 1/2 inch territory. So that means we could get some heavier ice developing on trees that could make them sag, break. I think that is what would cause our power outages that could be scattered in fashion. I know we were tracking a few of those earlier this morning, and we'll continue to do so throughout the duration of your day. Notice we are expecting those temperatures to fall below freezing for Fayette County over the next hour or two, and that means we will be expecting scattered to widespread wintry precipitation for central Texas. Some snow flurries could be tucked away within the freezing rain and sleet, but I am expecting this to be an ice event for central Texas. We're not expecting significant, if any, snowfall accumulation. Temperatures continue to fall throughout the day. We are not expecting afternoon highs, if you will, okay? We put 26 degrees on the 7-day forecast, but that's just because that's what we can expect just after lunchtime, okay? Where we typically achieve that afternoon high. Notice that moisture moves out of here by around dinner time, and then we are going to be tracking clearing in regards to the precipitation, but we are left with bone-chilling temperatures. Not only the temperatures, but the wind chill, because gusts will be anywhere from 25 to 30 miles per hour still. As I mentioned, throughout the day, those temperatures declining, okay? It's not going to get warmer. In fact, we don't warm until Friday afternoon, and how warm we get then will be heavily dependent on cloud coverage. If we're able to get some more sunshine, I do see our temperatures climbing into the lower to mid 30s. If not, we could sit at freezing. Austin metro areas and areas in the hill country could see 60 consecutive hours of freezing temperatures. That is not as long as what it was February last year, okay? Notice your 7-day forecast. There is a warming trend. Saturday and Sunday, 40s and 50s, even warmer for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. I hope that helps ease your fears for those of you that are maybe still triggered from last year's winter storm. Completely different system, but still a serious and strong system nonetheless. Yvonne?
That is a word of the morning, triggered. All right, this is what it looks like where we are this morning. Be sure to show us what it looks like outside your front door. On the left, I shot that video because I have fallen down a staircase, not once, but twice. That was icy. One time on my way to work, not here, but when I was younger, man, it hurt. And so you think that it's okay, but it's not. So definitely really be careful. They can get really slick and you can lose your footing right away. So
break your bones easily,
right?
too. Your elbows.
Well, see, back then I was cool, but now I would break my back.
You
know
bounced.
what I mean?
When you were young, you just bounced.
I just bounced up. Yeah, it was great, you know. But tweet us using the hashtag DaybreakATX, or you could text those photos to us at 512-459-9442. We were going to share those pictures here on the air. Just looking at that, or thinking about falling.
Flashback.
Right? I mean, my back artery starts to hurt.
Last year, I walked out of my house and I fell the first step I took right on my back. And I was like, oh my goodness, I took one more step and fell again. I'm like, I'm going inside.
It's like
I'm going inside.
You're like a baby, like a doe. You know what I mean? Like you can't get your footing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, welcome to us. If you're joining us right now, we're going to continue with this storm team coverage on this winter storm. Bryce is joining us right now. You know, it's getting messy out there. We want to give you an idea of what's going on, right?
Crews have been out there all morning long driving carefully during this storm. Bryce Newberry again joins us from the passenger seat. Been out there for, well, almost 4 hours now. You were on 183 North, I believe. Are you still on the highway, and what are you seeing?
Well, Rob and Yvonne, we are now on 183 South, and I want to show you just what we're seeing outside. We tried to slow down to get this shot. Out to the left, you can see there are 3 DPS troopers here. It in fact looks like one of those DPS vehicles has some damage on the right side of it, and 2 other DPS troopers out here responding. So the roads are certainly slick. This is the second situation similar to this that we've seen the other one over on I-35 this morning. But what's really interesting and what's really becoming clear is that there's a difference between the bridges and the flyovers and then just the regular roadway surfaces. The bridges and the flyovers are where the ice has accumulated much more than on just the regular roadway surfaces. Robin, Yvonne?
Yeah, and we talked about the reasoning for that, and that's because obviously, you know, there's nothing to warm it up. There's nothing underneath.
The earth can't warm it up. You got freezing air underneath and above it. So, Bryce, quick question. Have you personally been driving for 4 hours now? Have you all lost control at all in that time?
Good question.
Oh, that's a great question. JP is a very good driver. He's driving slowly and safely this morning, but we've seen a lot of drivers around us who have just kind of blew past us, and so those drivers seem to be doing okay. We're seeing some of the slush that's popping up from their tires as they're continuing, which means that it's not frozen and stuck to the road, but people are all driving kind of at their own speeds. Of course, the advice and guidance from officials is for everyone to go slowly and drive with caution.
And you know, you mentioned DPS out there. I mean, I feel like earlier, a lot of people were probably either working from home or they didn't have work because of the weather. So I'm kind of cautious about the fact that as, you know, the morning progresses, more people are going to be like, it's no big deal, and they're going to go out there. What kind of advice do you have for people who are now just waking up saying, you know what, I want to go to the store to grab this or to grab that? They're going to be on the roads.
Well, I think it's important to point out, and as our meteorologists have been talking about throughout the morning, you know, the temperatures are going to drop. And right now the car says 29 degrees. When we started this morning, it was around 32 degrees. So it's slowly getting below freezing more and more. And, you know, by the time this afternoon hits, when a hard freeze is expected, all of this wet slushiness that's out on the roads, I'll show you again, it's wet and slushy. You know, that is what's going to freeze, and that's what's going to cause a lot of problems. So while things might look okay right now, that's not going to be the story necessarily throughout the day. There you can see another one of those cars, you know, going a lot faster than we are. But yeah, so everyone's kind of taking it at their own speed right now, and conditions could change very quickly, you know.
No matter how good of a driver you think you are, a DPS driver is a trained driver. They go through intense training, and if they can crash, you know, having that crash like you just saw a moment ago, no matter what you're driving, it's going to be dangerous out there.
My speed is nice and slow.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? If you don't like the speed I'm going at, just go around me, Buster Brown. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep going slow because I'm not about to get in an accident.
There's 4 lanes for a reason.
Yes.
Right? You stay on the right, you go.
Spread out. Give me some space. Thank you so much, Bryce.
You've been in an accident. You probably have a lot of questions. Thomas J.
Welcome back. As this ice begins to accumulate this morning, this is what the Austin Energy Power Outage map looks like. Right now, we are at about 1,300 people without power. Of course, we're going to continue to update you on those numbers once we learn more. And one of our biggest concerns as ice, forms is that we're going to be losing power and that we're going to be in the cold and in the dark. And then we just think about what happened in last February and, we're triggered. I mean, is that correct?
The word you've used it too many times.
Triggered.
Tony used it earlier this morning, joins us now once again with more on what is happening in Central Texas.
And we are very fortunate to have on the phone with us right now Marissa Monroy. She is the spokeswoman for Austin Energy. Marissa, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
We're hanging in there. So we reported about 13,000 people without power right now. Is that the latest information you have as well?
That is the latest information. We are seeing about 6 outages affecting about 1,300 folks.
So, Marissa, I want to talk to you about how you all have prepared for an event like today. How have you deployed your crews?
Absolutely. We've been keeping a close eye on the situation all night long. We have crews outside ready to respond to any issues we're seeing outside in the elements. We also have crews inside keeping a close eye on the grid and seeing what those conditions might mean for our customers. As you all have been reporting, it's been a wet night, but not an icy one, and so that's a really good thing for our power lines. That weight is what would cause a lot of damage to our power lines, so we're we're glad to see the sleet and not the ice just yet, but we know that things could change. As far as how we've been preparing, we have crews on standby, ready to go. We are fully staffed and ready to respond to any issues we see with our situation that's happening outside.
That is one of the things that we have been seeing, is that sleet has actually been falling as opposed to freezing rain, which is bad for the roads, but certainly, as you mentioned, good for the power lines. Of course, Marissa, we know that the power story is a huge one and has been a huge one over the past year after the winter storm of 2021. I know that Austin Energy took a number of steps to better situate the agency should we have another winter emergency, and that's something that we've been talking about for some time. But can you go over some of the main adjustments that Austin Energy has made over the past year? Of course, we know that there was a quite lengthy after-action report done by the agency.
That's right. We had an after-action report that looked at all areas of operation, and in that after-action report, we take a look at a number of different things. One of the big things that you all, that a lot of people always focus on, is our weatherization of our plants. We were really fortunate in that we weatherize all year long, and we did that last year. We take a look at it every year, and so we did that again this year, and we looked for areas of improvement, and we made tweaks here and there. So that's a big one. So we know that we have our plants ready and prepped should this icy weather come in. We also took a look at different updates that we could make to our outage map so that people could have a more clear idea of what's happening in their area should they see an outage. So that was really important. And then finally, I know communications was a big point as well. So we wanted to make sure that we were communicating in more languages than just English and Spanish. So you'll see all of our different messaging. There's a lot of different messaging out there that's in a couple of different languages. And so we're really hoping to reach more of our population that way as well.
So we're now several hours into this winter weather event. What are you all thinking likely will unfold as the hours progress?
You know, if it keeps getting colder and colder, we are going to see that ice. And if we do see that ice, it's that ice that's going to weigh down on those lines. But it's also going to weigh down on tree limbs. It's going to cause them to lean against power lines, or it's going to cause those tree limbs to snap and fall on top of power lines. And that's where we could see some issues. So, you know, we're really going to try to stay on top of all of that. We really need the community's help as well. Please stay indoors if at all possible. If you do see down power lines, please stay away from them. If you see one, you can call 512-322-9100 to report it immediately. We'll take care of it, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. That's the big thing right now.
Is there anything else that you're asking consumers or power users to do at this juncture? Are you asking them, for example, to use less power right now? Last year, of course, we saw requests that you not use heavy appliances. Are we to that point, and do you anticipate us getting to that point?
You know, customers can always follow some tips to save energy during cold weather. You can set your thermostat at 68 degrees or lower into winter. You know, wear some warm, comfortable clothing to help you stay warm indoors instead of adjusting that thermostat. Keep your doors and windows closed to minimize hot air. That probably seems like a no-brainer, but sometimes people don't quite realize they've got a door cracked open or a window cracked open. If you're going to warm your home, try using a fireplace instead of turning up that thermostat. When not using it, though, make sure your fireplace damper is closed to prevent heat from escaping the chimney. And then you can really save energy in the kitchen as well. You know, give your oven and your wallet a break by using the oven light to check on the food if you're cooking. So use a slow cooker or microwave instead of the oven. Those are some ways that you can save some energy during this cold weather.
And certainly, should outages begin occurring or become more widespread, the truth is it could take some time to restore, correct?
That's right. I mean, our folks are having to deal with those icy conditions outside. They drive those big trucks, and so they're operating in pretty dangerous conditions. And, you know, our first priority is to keep our crews and our customers safe. So we really want to be aware of the hazards that exist out there. So please be patient with us. We encourage Austin Energy customers to check the outage map for the latest updates. They can do that by going to outagemap.austinenergy.com. And we're going to do our best we can out there.
Melissa Monroy, spokeswoman for Austin Energy, thank you so much for your time and help, and certainly we may want to check back in with you as the day progresses, but we appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely. Y'all stay safe.
Thanks again. Rob and Yvonne, a lot of really interesting tips that I had not thought about.
I know, you really don't think about those things, but you know what? She knows what she needs, what we need to do. And it's interesting how you do let the warm air escape, and you need to not do that.
Yeah, little things you can do to make a big difference for sure. Again, the number is 1,300 customers out over Austin Energy. Statewide, look at it right now, 71,000 outages, but that number has continued to climb throughout the morning. Tony, thank you. And if you need to drive anywhere today, please watch out for flooded roads. Take a look at the screen right now. This is more than 60 low water crossings that are closed in our area, those red dots right there. And remember, please never try to drive through a flooded road. We say turn around, don't drown. It's not just dangerous for you, it's the first responders who've got to come out and then save you. Okay, always pay attention also when you are behind the wheel. Give yourself lots of extra time if you are an essential worker, if you have to leave.
Of course. And now let's go back out to Connor. Connor, are you still in Pflugerville? And I know that flood advisory just expired at 7:30 for Travis, Williamson, and Hayes, but you've dealt with some flooding and then also sleet there. So you're kind of getting a mix of the two where you're at if you're still in Pflugerville, right?
Yvonne, yes, we are still in Pflugerville. We're on Crystal Bend Drive and we're up by Harris Branch Creek. But yeah, we've experienced a lot today. Earlier, it was a lot of rain and sleet coming down. Like I said, it was kind of hitting my jacket and popping off. But now we just have a little bit of sleet coming down. I believe it's still sleet. And if you look on the ground, it's building up. I know you guys have been talking about the difference between sleet and snow. And you can see it's just like ice. You can't really, I don't think you can make a good snowball out of that. But definitely more ice. That's not snow. We've been talking about the difference. Those are little ice pellets, little sleet that's been coming down, but we're definitely seeing it stick to the ground, at least in the grassy areas, and it's definitely still slick on some of the roadways. And like you said, we're also dealing with the flooding. So behind me, you can see that this road has been flooded over by the creek that usually goes under it. So you can see the water is flowing over, and these barriers were set up to keep people from driving over this road. We actually did see one person physically get out of their car to move one of the barriers. That was not a worker. But we have seen, I would say, I'm keeping count now, I think we've had 4 cars, I think it was 3 trucks, 1 car, who did decide to drive through it, and probably more than 10 now at this point made the correct choice and did not drive through it, because the water is fairly deep. Everyone got through, but you don't know how much water could lift your car up. You can see on the right there, the water goes downhill, so you would not want to get caught in that. So it's always better to not drive through. And we heard earlier, I believe it was Tony who was talking to some law enforcement, and they said it puts their people in a bad situation. So not only are you putting yourself in a dangerous situation, you're also putting the people that would have to come help you in a dangerous situation on days like today. You know, they're using their resources for other things. They're dealing with a lot today. You don't want to add more problems to what they're already dealing with. But yeah, like you said, just a lot of different things out on the roads today. We've kind of seen it change over time. You know, this morning it was more the rain rather than the ice. And now we're kind of seeing that transition to the sleets kind of sticking to the ground. It's getting colder. You can definitely tell it's getting colder. I finally put my gloves on that I didn't have on earlier. But yeah, that's what we're seeing right now. But now we're going to go to Chris back in the studio.
Stay warm out there, Connor. Looking cold, and the road conditions continuing to go downhill as those colder temperatures continue to work in. You can see this pink shaded area. This is where we have icy roadways being reported according to TxDOT. That has worked all the way into the I-35 corridor and actually just east of I-35. So Kyle, Buda, Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, all reporting icy roads at this time, especially the bridges and overpasses. So all the elevated surfaces are icy at this hour. Stay inside if you can, if you are an essential worker. First off, thank you to all the men and women out there protecting us, but give yourself a little extra time on the roadways. Probably have a semi-distance between you and the car in front of you in case that car in front of you comes to a stop or a skid. You want to make sure you give yourself extra time to navigate through that situation. And as you work your way west of 281, this is where roadways are pretty much impassable. There are numerous issues as you work your way into the hill country. Gillespie, Llano, Mason, Burnett, those counties, even those are where we have the biggest icing conditions, but that's continuing to work its way into the I-35 corridor. And you can see here in Austin, we have a lot going on. There have been several instances of accidents out there, stalled vehicles. It has kind of lessened up over the past 15 to 20 minutes. But again, try to stay off of the roadways if at all possible. Where you see the yellow, orange, and the red colors on the map, this is where we are really starting to see some issues, possibly due to weather. So 290, I-35, Mopac, all dealing with those delays, most likely due to the weather conditions continuing to go downhill across the area as those temperatures continue to fall. And I-10 has been a complete mess through southwestern parts of Gillespie County. So coming from El Paso, heading out to El Paso, the east and westbound lanes of I-10 have been a complete mess in southwestern parts of Gillespie County. Take a look at this. Traffic's moving pretty well. I wouldn't recommend going that fast. You can kind of see the glaze in the background on the trees. That's due to the freezing rain. And it even looks like there is a little bit of possibly some ice or sleet in the foreground there. This is I-35. This is northbound. As you can see, yeah, the traffic moving decent. I don't know. I think this is going to turn over into ice. It's watery right now on the surface, you can see on I-35, but I think that's going to eventually freeze over. So it's going to be like a flash freeze as those temperatures continue to fall. Once we get into the 20s, that's when everything is going to completely freeze over, and it's going to happen relatively quickly as well. But again, all the elevated surfaces out there are already frozen over at this point because those temperatures are continuing to fall, and we are down to 31 degrees in Austin. And as you can see, most areas are at or below freezing. So if your temperature, if you see yourself on the map, if you're at 32 or colder, you are below freezing and you are experiencing some icy roadways, especially the bridges and overpasses. Now, LaGrange, currently sitting at 34 degrees, but the temperature there is going to fall below freezing, honestly, probably within the next 30 to 45 minutes. That's when we're going to see that temperature fall over to freezing. And as we continue to see that wintry precipitation fall out there, the roadways are going to continue to go downhill. And we're not expecting temperatures to rise above freezing, which Shane is going to dive into that. So that means these road conditions are going to continue to be an issue throughout the duration of the day into your Friday morning. We recommend not getting on the roadways, but we know in some emergencies, or if you are an essential employee, you have to get out on the roadway. So if you do, you want to go slow. You want to leave extra space between you and that car in front of you. And if your vehicle comes to a slide, you want to ease off of the brakes. You don't want to slam on the brakes. You can easily lose control if you do that. And you want to steer toward any skid if your vehicle does start to skid. That will help you maintain or regain control of your car. And of course, be careful on the bridges, ramps, the overpasses. Those are all iced over across all of central Texas, but it's just a matter of time as those temperatures continue to drop before all the roadways are iced over across central Texas. We're also dealing with some road closures because of flooding. We saw heavy rain across central Texas earlier this week. We saw an additional 1 to 2 inches along I-35 from Hayes into Travis as well as Williamson counties, and that has allowed for some runoff, and we have some low water crossings that are flooded. The creeks, the streams are overflowing those low water crossings, so we have more than 60 road closures or low water crossing closures in central Texas. So that's another issue we are encountering this morning. It's not only the icy roadways, but it is also some of the roadways that are flooded across the area. So an important reminder, if you do have to get on the roadway, you want to make sure A, you're driving slowly because of the ice, but B, if you come across a roadway that is covered by water, you want to make sure you turn around, don't drown, because it only takes a few inches of water to stall a vehicle and then wash it off of the roadway. And that's the last thing you want to do, is put yourself in a situation where you are seeing your vehicle go down a stream off of the roadway and we have temperatures in the 20s out there, and that puts not only you in danger but the first responders in danger. So just make sure that you're playing it safe out there. It is going to continue to be an active day on the roadways, an active day on the radar. Shane, what's going on right now? What are you seeing on the radar? Are we seeing the precipitation come to an end, or is it still continuing? And what do you see these temperatures doing?
Well,
Well, we are continuing to track that mix of wintry precipitation, whether it be sleet, freezing rain, maybe even some snow flurries to areas north of us. We are still waiting out in Fayette County to see that transition over to freezing. I want to give you a look at those advisories, whether it be winter storm warnings, watches, or winter weather advisories. You can see they do include a majority of Texas, but keep in mind, one, not the entire state of Texas is included in this, and only about half the state is under winter storm warning. That is a stark contrast to what we were tracking in February 2021's winter storms. In fact, it's a winter weather advisory as you make your way east of us, extending into Houston. They'll continue to monitor wintering-like conditions throughout the next several hours as well. A look across the Lone Star states shows we have maybe a mix of some snow flurries to the north of us. Areas in pink are where we're kind of focusing in on more of an ice event. That's what I think this will be remembered as for central Texas. And it's certainly cold out there. Take a look at what it feels like outside, especially as you make your way up to Amarillo. Negative 19 degrees is what it currently feels like in the Panhandle. We're talking lower 20s in Austin and just above freezing for our friends and family members out in Houston at 33 degrees. Here's a look at your most recent temperatures here in central Texas. Widespread in regards to that wintry precipitation. It is a mix, okay? I'm seeing reports for sleet. I'm seeing reports for freezing rain. And as I mentioned earlier throughout this morning, even though some of the satellite radar indications may be showing flurries, that doesn't mean necessarily that it's reaching the Earth's surface. So please, by all means, continue to send in those viewer reports. We really do appreciate them, and you truly do help us tell that weather story here at KVUE. Notice along the I-35 corridor, including Austin, at or below freezing. San Marcos, you are at 32 degrees. LaGrange, one of the warmest areas, at 34. You will reach freezing probably within the next hour or so, so get ready for that. If you take a look at the radar loop over the past several hours, we are just continuing to see that transition, as I mentioned, from rain to some kind of wintry mix, whether it's sleet or freezing rain. Let's take a look at those reports. Now, keep in mind, we saw quite a bit of rain yesterday evening, overnight into this morning, several rumbles of thunder. I think we're actually seeing probably some benefit of that rain. I know that sounds weird, but if you think about that puddle of water, it's not going to be able to fully freeze. We're not talking that cold temperatures, okay? So that ponded water will freeze, but right now it's too much water for it to just instantly freeze. We're not going to get that cold. Let's take a closer look here in Travis County, some of the storm reports that have been reported to the National Weather Service, whether that be ice that is accumulated, those little icicles that you're seeing, or maybe sleet reports that you see closer to the Round Rock area. Even last night, I was seeing some reports submitted to the National Weather Service around Georgetown. I was mentioning snow flurries just around, I believe, 10 o'clock in the evening. If you take a look out in the hill country, yesterday they were starting to already see some reports of ice as that winter timeline kind of moved up a little bit. As you make your way out towards the east, not as many reports yet, but I do expect us to see more sleet and maybe freezing rain reports throughout the rest of the morning and the afternoon. A closer look at just the temperatures, okay? How cold are we? Travis County, you're at freezing or below. The airport and Manor, you're probably two of the warmest areas at freezing with 32 degrees. As you make your way out towards the east, as I mentioned, we're keeping a close eye on Fayette County as you are sitting at 34. Fayette County is the only one not included in the winter storm warning. You can see there in purple. Everywhere else in pink, you are a winter storm warning. In effect until 9 o'clock this evening. The main concerns, ice and sleet accumulation in conjunction and in addition really to those strong wind chills that we're going to get from those gusts. So what kind of winter weather potential are we talking about for today? You've noticed I bumped up the impacts for your travel into the high category, and that's just simply due to the fact that we are expecting cold temperatures overnight. Whatever rainfall that was accumulated or whatever's still out on the road by tonight, it's going to hard freeze, okay? So that's going to make even trickier travel conditions for tonight and tomorrow. Taking a look at your current winds and gusts, up to 30 miles per hour in Fayette County, out in LaGrange, close to that elsewhere. Giddings, Bastrop, and Austin in the mid-20s, upper 20s as you make your way to Burnett at 28. That is causing a significant wind chill and will continue to do so not only this afternoon and tonight, but also I expect into your Friday as well. Let's take a look at that timeline for the rest of the day. I expect that transition to at or below freezing for Fayette County within the next hour. all of us, the rest of us, I should say, falling into that hard freeze territory along and west of I-35. By just after lunchtime, I expect the eastern half of the viewing area to be dealing with that wintry mix. By dinner, I expect conditions to be drying out and cooling off even further. That's right, we are not climbing with our temperatures throughout the day as we typically see, okay? That cold air still filtering in from the north. As we head into the overnight period, maybe some breaks in the cloud coverage. Keep in mind that will cause for efficient radiational cooling where the Earth's surface, any heat that it's containing would be able to lift back up into the atmosphere. However, what could also keep us kind of on a warmer side, and I do use that term lightly, are the strong winds. It will kind of create mixing so it's not able to lift fully back up into the atmosphere as efficiently if we were dealing with calm winds. Notice your ice accumulation forecast from now through Friday morning. So this is not factoring in what we've already possibly accumulated. You can see it wants to put the highest potential along the I-35 corridor, mostly as you make your way north of Austin, just under 1/4 of an inch. It wants to put the possibility of close to 1/4 of an inch out in Gillespie County. I still think we're talking more of a glaze as you make your way out towards the coastal plains. The graph, this is a high resolution forecast model. It's starting to taper off on ice accumulation, and that's because I believe it is now transitioning to more of a thought process of sleet. So it's tapering off on ice and increasing our sleet potential. I think the NAM forecast model also doing that as well, talking over a tenth or under 1/10 of an inch, I should say, for our eastern counties. Your future wind chill. This is what it's going to feel like if you were to step outside. I would not suggest it. We're talking hypothermic conditions. As we head into this afternoon, everywhere feeling like they're in the teens. Now take a look as we leap forward just after dinner time. We're talking still in the teens, a few isolated areas west of I-35, feeling as if they're in the single digits. Areas close to 0 degrees or lower for portions of the hill country overnight into Friday morning. 9 o'clock in the morning, just take a look at this. It could barely be feeling like it's in the double digits as you make your way to Austin, and then only feel like it's in the 20s for Friday afternoon. Taking a look at this system as a whole and when we can expect a warm up, okay? That front and that colder air continues to push off far to the east and to the south. Temperatures this afternoon, I'm putting 26 just because that's what we can expect after lunchtime. Our daytime highs were already achieved. Heading into Friday, if we can get the clouds to move out of here, I do expect us to get just above freezing, if only for a few hours. If the cloud coverage is more stubborn, we could be stuck at around 60 consecutive hours of a freeze for the hill country, and yes, portions of the I-35 corridor, including some of the Austin metro area. But notice, as we go into the weekend, I do expect a warming trend, 40s, so safely above freezing on Saturday, and even warmer for Sunday, where I'm talking lower 50s potentially. We will be tracking another cold front that could make its way for Monday, but it's not going to be a strong one. I'll show you that in just a moment. Your 3-day forecast, we're talking mid-20s this afternoon, lower 20s overnight, just above freezing possibly for tomorrow, but keep in mind this number will be iffy depending on cloud coverage. Temperatures dropping back to a hard freeze not only Friday night but Saturday night as well. So you need to protect your people, your plants, your pets, your pipes. Make sure everything's taken care of. Check in with your family members. Notice this 7-day forecast is trending warmer than what we were tracking for the February 2021 storm. It's not fair to compare weather systems, but this is nowhere near as intense. As you can see, as we make our way into the weekend, warming back up into the lower 50s for the afternoon, there's that first of 2 cold fronts we could be tracking. This is a weaker cold front. I'm talking maybe only about a 10% chance for some precipitation. Highs still staying in the upper 40s. And then guys, keep your eyes on the prize. Wednesday, it showed 60s.
Okay.
Love to see that.
Okay. Just keeping my eye on the prize.
That is a prize. It's a big prize.
Yeah.
Look, I'm trying to put a silver lining in this forecast.
We love that.
We got to give them a smile. We got to give them something to look forward to.
Seriously, but I look forward to talking to you guys because I think it's interesting to just point out the differences between last February storm and now. And I feel like it's kind of like a snowflake. Don't they say that every snowflake, not everyone is the same. They're all different. Yep. So I feel like in this case, definitely time frame. That's something that's different. Can y'all expand on that?
Sure thing. So I'll take over first. That's a great and appropriate metaphor. Like
really? Thanks.
Thank
you.
When we're talking about last year to this year, let's first factor in the advisories and the warnings. The entire state was really under whether an advisory or a warning. At At this point, southern Texas not included. Areas just east of us just now being added to a winter weather advisory, and that's understandable in regards to, just think of it, snowfall. I still remember very vividly looking out my apartment window on Valentine's Day, seeing that snow falling down. We're not tracking snow. It looks like snow. That is sleet that is accumulating for some areas. And like you mentioned, that 7-day forecast I was showing does not have that long drawn out period of below average or below freezing temperatures, I should say. We were talking multiple, not only nights, but afternoons. That is not the case. As I mentioned, some areas could see 60 consecutive hours of at or below freezing. We were talking much longer than that, several days, several nights that were below freezing for last year's winter storm.
Big difference. Yeah. We'd like to have the snow as opposed to the freezing rain and the sleet, though. That would be nicer.
Well, Chris, let's talk about the temperatures, because that's also something that plays a role in all of this.
Yeah, the temperatures, they're cold out there, but it's not going to be as cold as what we saw in February of 2021. That's when temperatures actually fell into the single digits for some areas. We're not going to see that with this go around. It's going to be cold out there, and yes, the wind chills are going to be cold when you factor in those winds gusting up to 30, 35 miles per hour, but we're not going to see a widespread freeze of temperatures in the single digits. So that is very important. We are going to see temperatures below freezing again here in Austin, possibly 36, maybe 48 consecutive hours. Like Shane was saying, that's going to be very dependent upon whether we see sunshine tomorrow afternoon. But with February 2021, we were below freezing in Austin way longer than that. In the Hill Country, we're talking about some folks that were below freezing for over 100 hours. So a completely different system. It still needs to be taken very seriously. But with the February 2021 event, we also saw multiple rounds of wintry precipitation. We saw some sleet, some freezing rain, snow. With this is going to be this one quick hitting round, which again will be impactful for some areas, but we're not going to see multiple rounds of that wintry precipitation adding layer upon layer upon layer of ice and snow, which then holds those temperatures even colder. So it's cold. It was way colder in February 2021. We're seeing ice, but it was way icier and snowier in February 2021. So a completely different system. But like Shane and I, as well as Hunter, have been saying, we want everybody to take it seriously, but just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And like Shane was saying, we're going to be in the 60s before too long.
I know. I'm just thinking ahead, just thinking ahead. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate that.
Well, take a look at these photos sent to us by our viewer Diane in Wells Branch. Certainly appreciate that. Again, it's not snow, looks like snow, looks pretty. Be sure to let us know what it looks like in your front door. Tweet us #DaybreakATX or text them to 512-459-9442. We're going to share them with you here on KVUE.
Yes, I love hearing from our viewers. MJ, Monica, Teresa, all of you are letting us know about what you're seeing out your window. I know that Monica just said from where she's at, she says, you know, if the standing water doesn't evaporate, that they're going to be in trouble, because right now they're at about 42 degrees where they're at, but temperatures as they dropped, that's something she's going to be paying attention to, and I can understand that. And if you could take a look at these photos sent to us by our viewer Catherine in downtown Austin. Again, as we mentioned, looks like snow, but it's sleet, but definitely paints the picture for you, doesn't it?
And the city of Austin is suspending several services today due to the weather. Trash and recycle pickup from Austin Resource Recovery is canceled. COVID-19 testing and vaccine sites will be closed through Friday, and all parks and recreation facilities are also closed. It's important to note all essential public safety services will continue. And if you need a place to get warm, Austin and Travis County are preparing community shelters this morning. The shelters will give people a place to warm up, charge their phone, relax. They'll be open 24 hours a day while conditions permit. They're opening at 9 a.m. in about 40 minutes. They're listed on your screen right there. You can find the list and the addresses on our website, KVUE.com.
And if it's not just your human family members that need extra supplies, Austin Pets Alive, well, they've got you covered. You can pick up pet food and other donated items at the Austin Pets Alive Town Lake Animal Center location. Food and pet care items are available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. today and tomorrow in front of the clinic. Stick with us. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more winter weather coverage.
Spokespersons for Lorenz and Lorenz.
Right here, it looks like there's a little bit of sleet that is built up, so all overpasses, bridges, any elevated surface is icy, and those roadways are going to become icy as well as that freezing line slips east. You can see from pretty much from San Marcos all the way up to Georgetown, we're dealing with icy conditions on the roadways on I-35, and especially as you work your way to the west, particularly west of 281, that's where we have widespread icing conditions across the area. But right now, all of the roadways in Austin, according to TxDOT, have some type of icy buildup due to the freezing rain, the sleet that we are seeing across the area. But the good news is we don't have a lot of traffic out there. A lot of people are staying home due to the pandemic, as well as the precautionary measures that were taken due to the preparation for this ice storm. You can see there just aren't many accidents. We had a few earlier this morning, but a lot of people are staying off the roadways, which is helping alleviate any type of stalled vehicles and or accidents across the area. You do see the orange and the yellow area showing up on 290 I-35 Mopac, and that's due to the slow conditions, due to the bad road conditions, whether that's due to water or ice. But again, a lot of folks out there staying home, and we advise that you don't want to get on the roads unless you have to, because we do have a lot of icy conditions out there. Now, if you are an essential worker, make sure that you're going slow on the roads. You want to give extra distance between you and the car in front of you. And of course, if you come into a skid, you want to steer into it and also ease off of those brakes. That'll help you maintain or regain control of your car. Now, as you work your way into Gillespie County, we have issues all across the county, and especially on I-10 eastbound as well as westbound, a complete mess as you are heading west toward El Paso, where you're coming into central parts of Texas. Taking a look at the temperature map out there, any temperature or any area where you see that temperature at 32 or colder, that's where we have icy conditions, either on the elevated surfaces or even on those surface roadways. So that includes pretty much the entire viewing area outside of Fayette County. LaGrange is sitting at 34, but LaGrange is also going to see that temperature fall within the next couple of hours. And the roadways, they are already wet from the rain overnight. That's going to freeze. We're already seeing the freezing conditions as that sleet falls, and as those temperatures drop and we have more precipitation moving across the area, and with those temperatures staying cold throughout the day, which Shane is going to dive into, we're going to see the road conditions stay bad throughout the day and possibly become worse later on this evening into the overnight hours as those temperatures continue to fall, and as we lose any type of heat, any type of sunlight that we may see later today, which we're going to be here tomorrow morning with the latest road conditions as well. But the road conditions are going to be bad throughout the day. Not only are we dealing with the icy road conditions, we do have some closures due to the heavy rain we saw overnight. We saw an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain for Hayes, Travis, Williamson counties. That is in addition to what we saw earlier this week. So some folks have seen 5, 6, 7 inches of rain within the past week. So that allowed for a lot of runoff, and low water crossings were covered by water. So there are more than 60 low water crossing closures in central Texas due to that heavy rain we saw. So if you do come across a roadway that is covered by water, if you have to get out on the roads, you want to make sure you turn around, don't drown. It doesn't take much water at all to stall a vehicle and or wash it off of the roadway. Shane, how are things looking? What are the temperatures doing? How much longer do you think we're going to see the freezing rain and sleet and maybe snow in the hill country across the area?
Well, Chris, we are tracking those temperatures on the decline. They are going to continue getting cooler throughout the day and night. So believe it or not, we've already achieved our daytime highs overnight last night. I want to give you a look at the temperatures across the country in addition to the satellite radar, so you can see just how far this system stretches all the way into the northeast. And look at some of those temperatures. Even though it's cold here in Austin, imagine Minneapolis, -9 degrees, -9 in Colorado, out in Denver. It almost makes you think that we are warm. But we can track what we're tracking right here in central Texas down to freezing temperatures for the most part. Our exception is out there in LaGrange, but I'm already starting to see some reports of wintry weather out there. That transition almost occurring for Fayette County. You can see it right there on the edge. I do think we'll achieve those freezing temperatures out there near LaGrange maybe in the next hour or so. Notice along the I-35 corridor, anywhere from the upper 20s in Williamson County and Georgetown, all the way to freezing down in San Marcos. Hard freeze currently experienced in the Hill Country. 23 in Llano is the coldest temperature we're tracking. If you're curious why we haven't gotten a reading from Mason all morning, I would not be surprised if the thermometer is actually frozen, if we're just making assessments here. Notice that it's 31 out at Camp Mabry. We've been receiving multiple reports really along I-35 and out in the Hill Country, but I want to zoom in here because we have received our first report to the National Weather Service in regards to some freezing rain. Now it's interesting because 34 degrees is what we're currently getting thermometer readings out in LaGrange, but what this tells us is that we are starting to see that change. It will be happening shortly. Winter weather alerts for the area. I'm sure you're tired of seeing pink and purple at this point, but we're just keeping you in the know. 9 p.m. is when that winter storm warning is expected to expire. We will let you know if it gets extended for any reason. Ice and sleet accumulations are going to be the main concern for today, with those wind chills and that hard freeze expected tonight. Anything that's not able to melt, which since temperatures are staying well below freezing, it won't, are going to cause for some tricky travel conditions overnight into Friday. So that's why we're encouraging people to stay indoors, not only today, but Friday as well. Precipitation will fully transition into freezing rain or sleet. As Chris was mentioning, we could see some snow flurries scattered throughout the KVUE viewing area, but we're not really talking about snowfall accumulations. It's ice and sleet that are going to be the main hazards here. 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch. Some isolated areas, when all is said and done, could have acquired up to 1/2 an inch. That's going to be probably some of the most treacherous driving conditions. Hill Country and some of the Austin metro area, after all is said and done, could have acquired up to 60 consecutive hours of a freeze if we do not get to freezing on Friday. Right now, our forecast calls for an afternoon high on Friday of 34 degrees. As we've been mentioning all morning, it is breezy out there. We are now tracking gusts up to 31 miles per hour across the viewing area. Strongest breezes right now are out there in Austin. Mid to lower 20s as you make your way out towards the coastal plains, and still mid-20s west of I-35 as well. It now officially feels like it's in the single digits out there in Llano. It feels like it's 8 degrees. Falling in Austin, it feels like it's 20. Also out there in Giddings, 24 is what it feels like in Bastrop and in LaGrange. As we take a look at the future radar, we expect to see that rain fully transition into that wintry mix, and then it's going to be a little bit more widespread. Yes, the high-resolution model still wants to indicate the possibility of some snow flurries, but that's going to be very scattered, isolated to scattered, and not going to be the main concern. Ice will be our main concern and what this event will be remembered for. As we take a look throughout the rest of the afternoon, temperatures continue to fall in the Hill Country, out in Austin, and then as we make our way out towards the east, sitting just below freezing by around dinner time. I expect all that wintry precipitation to move out of here. The clouds move out. However, the wind and the cold, it sticks around. In fact, we can expect a breezy overnight period and a windy Friday as well. I do think that it won't be as windy tomorrow, but still a significant wind chill. Once again, giving you a reminder of the different types of frozen precipitation we're dealing with. We saw rain earlier, overnight last night into this morning. Actually, quite significant rain that caused that aerial flood advisory for portions of Hayes, Travis, and Williamson County. That has expired. Now we're talking more freezing rain and sleet, isolated snow. Freezing rain is whenever you have that rain that falls down as a liquid. It reaches the surface as a liquid, but there's a small period, that little area near the surface, that's at or below freezing. So it super cools onto the Earth's surface. As we're talking sleet, notice there's a larger area of freezing or below freezing temperatures, still falls as liquid from the sky, and then freezes into more of a pellet that is bouncing off the Earth's surface. We're seeing a lot of sleet reports. Pictures will look like snow, but the National Weather Service has confirmed it is sleet. How much more ice could we accumulate from now through the rest of the day? I have it running until Friday morning because by that point, that system, the rain and the precipitation is going to be out of here. We're talking for the European model up to 1/4 of an inch for Austin and Georgetown, maybe 1/10 of an inch down in San Marcos, less than 1/10 of an inch as you make your way to the hill country, or the coastal plains, I should say. Taking a look at your high resolution forecast models, it wants to keep it around 1/10 of an inch possible as you make your way towards the coastal plains. No accumulation precipitation, if much at all, would be out in the hill country because at this point, the predominant precipitation is along and east of I-35. A look at the NAM forecast model has also tapered off a little bit. I think this is because the forecast models are now transitioning their thought process on ice to sleet. So that's not going to get factored in whenever we're talking ice accumulation. Your 3-day forecast is showing temperatures will be warming. In fact, we should be back in the lower 40s by Saturday.
Thank you so much, Shay. You know, I did a bit of a roll call with our viewers asking, what are you seeing in your area? Well, we heard from Robin in Hayes County, Buda area. Robin saying it's all ice. In fact, she said the trees in her backyard, she goes, they normally don't touch the ground, but they are touching the ground because they're so heavy with that ice. And then obviously Michael in Pflugerville off of East Wells Branch, he's saying same thing. A lot of trees covered in ice. Also saying that the roofs look like they have snow, but that's ice as well. Then we have a comedian, Rob. Richard Flores. You got me, Richard, because he said San Marcos is sunny skies and 85 degrees. Oh, wait, I was looking at Cancun.
Oh,
and I'm like, of course, because I was thinking, what? But he said, yeah, definitely they're dealing with a lot of ice and it's very windy, very gusty there.
6 months from now, it'll be 80 something.
Seriously, but you got me, you comedian.
Yeah, and I believe now the counter board is alive right now. She's been looking at, well, the roads and some flooded roads as well behind you all morning long, Connor.
Rob, yeah, it's funny that Yvonne was just talking about the trees in Pflugerville. We're actually in Pflugerville right now. We're on Crystal Bend Drive where, yeah, a lot is going on. We do have flooding behind me, but we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to talk about the trees. Like you said, everything now, before we had a lot of rain and sleet coming down, now everything's kind of just icing over. Just a minute ago, not the tree we're under, but a tree across the street made a large and loud cracking sound. We didn't see a branch fall, but definitely some cracking noises from a tree across the street. But what we have here, which I'm sure is on all the trees across the street as well, we have all these branches are that is completely iced over. You can see the ice droplets on both ends of this branch, but everything here is iced over. We've seen pictures of people's trees and their plants icing over, and we've also seen some tabletops and obviously the ground icing over in a lot of places. So whether you're walking or driving, which we do not recommend doing right now, just be careful. I do want to give you a quick look behind me. Like I said, we're on Crystal Bend Drive in Pflugerville, and there is water going over this roadway. You can see there's actually a car over there, I think maybe deciding what to do in their situation. We have seen most cars make the correct choice and they do not go over the water. There is a barrier, but it looks like someone moved it or pushed it down. We did see one person actually get out of their car and push it out of the way to go across the water, which is highly not recommended. You should not go over standing water on the roads. But like I said, we have seen probably 5 cars go through the water and they all got through, but you never want to do that, especially when you see barriers. And if there's not barriers, you should just know not to go through that water. But like I said, earlier today, there were about 60 areas, those low-lying areas that have water going over them. I'm not sure the count right now, but like I said, this area still has water going over the road. So definitely want to be safe out there. We'll keep you updated next after the break.
KVUE Traffic is sponsored by DC Law.
extended coverage of this winter storm. One of our biggest concerns is ice forms, is that we'll lose power. We're going to be out in the cold or the dark. That's what we're concerned about.
A repeat of last year.
Of course.
Yeah, which of course this is much different this year. Tony Pileski joining us now this morning with a mayor in the neighborhood. Tony?
Right, Rob and Yvonne, we've been wanting to talk to community leaders really across Central Texas. So now we want to go to the west of Austin, about 35 to 40 miles. And joining us now on the phone is Marble Falls Mayor Richard Westerman. Mr. Mayor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tony. How are you doing this morning?
Well, we're hanging in there, Mayor. Can you give us the situation, how it looks out the window of your office, of your home there in your city this morning?
Sure. We have light accumulation so far in the city. I know that we activated our EOC this morning at 6:30. And as the reports go, at the 1400 block of 1431, Farm to Market Road 1431 that passes through town, the bridge has iced over, and TxDOT's addressing that one. And then the main intersection in town, 28171, is icy and slushy, but still passable at the moment. And I do have reports that it's much more accumulation to the north and to the west of us, and it's slowly moving this way.
Mr. Mayor, what about traffic accidents or any injuries reported so far this morning?
None reported so far. The roads seem to be very lightly traveled at the moment, and I think that's obviously a very good thing. As temperatures continue to drop, all the roads are wet, and freezing is certainly going to be an issue.
And power, do you still have power there in the city right now mostly?
Yes. We've had no issues with power or any utilities at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I know we've been asking all of the leaders we've been talking to this morning about this from throughout the region, but I want to ask you the same question as well. Obviously, we all lived through a lot last year with the winter storm that we all endured, but for government leaders, it was an opportunity to really take a look at their own operations in terms of any lessons that might have been learned. I want to ask you about the city of Marble Falls. Is that an exercise that you and your city undertook, and what is different today than maybe it was a year ago?
Well, certainly. So I think we fared fairly well, as it could be through the freeze that we had last February. We have a very active emergency management team, and we obviously had to go through and do a few repairs at that time, and we're still dealing with some of that at this point, but we are adding, many generators over the next month or two. It's taken a while to get to that point, but we continue to upgrade our system and want to make sure that all of our citizens don't have any hardships based on the utilities here coming from the city of Marble Falls.
But again, just to recap, it sounds like so far the power is mostly on in your city. No traffic accidents have been reported, at least major ones, but again, you are seeing some icing on the roadways that does make it dangerous for motorists.
Absolutely, and especially the bridges. The bridges are beginning to ice over, and most of those, not most, those are being addressed by TxDOT at this time. So we just want to recommend everybody stay off the roads and stay safe.
Marble Falls Mayor Richard Westerman, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you for a slice of pie at Bluebonnet when all of this goes away.
Absolutely. I'll meet you there.
Thank you so much. So Brian and Yvonne, we'll continue to obviously be in touch with all of our local leaders, not just here in Austin, but throughout the region here
we definitely
in Central
will.
Texas.
By the way, I tried to go to Bluebonnet once and the line was so long that I'm like, I'll try it again, but I should have waited in line.
I was going to say it's worth waiting for.
We better get some free stuff. After one, you called me the wrong name, and two, you just mentioned
You called him Brian.
I did?
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, listen, I called you Troy a month ago, so it's fine. morning.
Old habits die hard. My apologies.
It's a long morning. It's a long morning.
We're in hour number 5 of extended coverage. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, as our coverage continues, more reporters are joining us from different parts of Central Texas.
Pamela Combe joins us now from west of Austin, RM620. Pamela, what do you see out there? I saw you just for a second, and it looked like there was like a lot of white behind you, a lot of sleet behind you. What are you experiencing?
Northwest Austin, where 620 meets 2222, and it is sleeting right now. I mean, I kind of just see the sleet bouncing off my jacket right over here. And if you go right over to the roads, we actually just saw a truck pass by, just kind of, you know, treating the roads. You can see, I mean, they're not that bad. They're a little bit slushy, but there is a couple of cars passing by. The good news is that there's a lot of people did listen to the recommendations. They are staying home, so it's not too bad out here. There's not too many cars out here just yet. Well, that car just kind of flew by. But yeah, and right over there we have a mailbox. If you zoom in, you can kind of see just the icicles right down there. There's ice just covering everything everywhere. I mean, the trees are white. We actually saw a tree that was kind of just bending over when we were on our way over here because, you know, it's being weighed down by all the ice, the sleet, and all of that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. It's freezing, you know. I'm a Florida girl, so this is the first time I'm experiencing something like this. It's cold. My fingers are about to fall off. I mean, it's great to see that, you know, people are staying home. And yeah, I mean, there's businesses that also on the way here. We saw a lot of them are closed. So yeah, it's good to see just people staying home, staying safe.
Yeah, Pamela, I was going to ask you, I'm like, you're a Miami girl, so let's talk about the importance also of just layering up, because I noticed that you've got it all down. You've got the hat covering the head so, you know, the heat doesn't escape. You've got the gloves, so you made sure that you layered up, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I have like 5 layers of clothes on right now. I have my thermals and like 2 sweaters, a jacket. I mean, I even have my snow boots. You know, you gotta stay warm. I bought the hot hands to kind of just warm up my hands a little bit. So for sure, yeah.
Oh, those are an investment.
Out here.
Those hot hands are an investment.
They are. Yes. She's prepared, and she's wearing the yellow vest, which is important because she was just talking, and then that truck just kind of flew by. So
anytime you're by the roads, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pamela. Central Texas. Let's take a look. I know. Let's talk more about that, the weather and what's taking place right now.
Well, Yvonne, we're taking a live look out in Round Rock at our Kalahari Resorts and Conventions web camera. Our downtown camera froze a lot earlier this morning. Now we're starting to see that ice accumulate there. Through the ice, you can see those patches of white. Once again, that is not snow, that is sleet. I think many of our ice projections have now kind of gone over from freezing rain to sleet throughout the day. So we're going to continue to monitor that closely. That's good news in regards to our power lines. That is bad news in regards to our roadways. Chris Nunley is going to have an update on that in just a few minutes. But you're taking a look at the radar loop from the last several hours, seeing that transition into wintry precipitation as you make your way out towards the east. Although they are still sitting above freezing, I have already seen the first report submitted to the National Weather Service in regards to some freezing rain out in Fayette County. As we make our way up to the hill country, we're talking lower 20s out in Llano. Still haven't seen a temperature reading from Mason, but safe to say it's in the lower 20s and well below freezing. We think maybe there could have been some ice on the thermometer ever since earlier this morning. I-35 corridor, including Austin, below freezing. You're taking a look at the storm reports, specifically the winter weather reports over this morning. We're seeing quite a bulk of them have been achieved out here on the I-35 corridor because that's where the reports have really been, and the winter weather has really been isolated, probably the heaviest earlier this morning. You're taking a look at the rainfall accumulation. This is not freezing rainfall accumulation. This is really factoring in the rain that we achieved last night where we saw those storms. I know I was woken up by rumbles of thunder, maybe a light show for some of you. I saw even a tweet from our very own Emily Jean Greco saying how she had a light show from downtown Austin. That's where a lot of the activity occurred, and we also saw anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rainfall along the I-35 corridor. The reason I mention this is I think this could actually be a little beneficial for our roadways today, but it could make them even trickier tomorrow. The reason I say that is all that ponding up on the roads that even triggered an aerial flood advisory for some areas of Hayes, Travis, and Williamson counties. It's not going to be able to freeze because it's just too much water. However, those slick roadways that maybe just got water that didn't pond on it, that that will be really tricky and will be icy today and continue throughout the overnight and even Friday. Gusts and current winds. The gusts are in gold, current winds sustained in white. We're seeing anywhere from 10 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts up to 31 miles per hour currently out at Camp Mabry. That is causing a significant wind chill, almost in the single digits once again for Llano. It's been fluctuating between 8 and 10 degrees over the past hour or so. Any way you spell it, it's cold. You don't want to be outside. These are hypothermic conditions, and we're going to continue to track hypothermic conditions not only throughout the rest of the day, but into the overnight and into Friday as well. So that rain is going to continue to transition into freezing rain and sleet throughout the rest of the morning. It's almost there. In fact, based off of some of those storm reports, temperatures are also on the decline. We've already achieved our daytime high. It was ironically our overnight low. Your hill country and some locations close to the Austin metro area. I also think the northern I-35 corridor, when all is said and done, could be close to at or below freezing for 60 consecutive hours. This is nowhere near as long as what we saw during 2021's February winter storm. Just want to throw that out there, that if we're not able to make it into the 34 range for your Friday afternoon, that's how long that freezing period could last. We're taking a look for the rest of the morning. Notice that wintry precipitation fully develops for our eastern counties as that rain transitions over. It starts to dry up in portions of the hill country, but it still does stay cold and breezy. By around 1:30, it's dropping into the upper 20s out in Austin, still just below freezing in the eastern counties, still looking at a hard freeze for our hill country communities. Notice that as we go into the back half of the afternoon and early evening, that winter weather pushes out of here and we're left with cold and chilly and windy conditions, okay? We are talking significant wind chills throughout the back half of your afternoon and evening, and yes, into your Friday morning as well. Let's talk about those wind chills quickly. If you have to go outside, if you're a member of emergency management, if you're working at a hospital, we understand that you have to be on the roads. Please take it easy and also prepare for some chill. Once again, you have to prepare as if their worst case scenario, you were to be stranded on the side of the roads, so make sure you are dressed appropriately for it, have water and food in your car and a blanket. Notice that as we go into the afternoon, temperatures feeling like they're at or below 20 degrees area wide. In fact, as we leap forward into the early evening hours, it feels like it's around 6 degrees out in Burnett, 13 in Austin, and it only gets cooler from there. In fact, for some areas west of I-35, it could feel close to 0 degrees overnight into Friday morning. So you're going to want to make sure you continue to keep the pets indoors, check in on your loved ones to make sure that they're staying warm through all of this. In fact, as we go into Friday afternoon and early evening, I still see it feeling as if we're in the 20s. Let's talk about your overnight lows area wide. This is what the thermometer could read. We're talking teens for the hill country. We're talking upper teens to lower 20s as you make your way toward Camp Mabry, and then lower 20s as you make your way toward the coastal plains. The next 4 days, notice that warming trend as we go from Friday into Saturday and Sunday. I do see a warming trend confidently for the weekend. Friday, it's ultimately going to depend on some cloud coverage, okay? We're tracking some moisture in the middle layers of the atmosphere, which could make for some stubborn cloud coverage. If we don't get enough sunshine, it's very possible that we could stay close to freezing. If not, maybe a few hours of above freezing. I would expect what does not melt and evaporate would refreeze Friday night into Saturday morning, but then we would confidently melt Saturday and Sunday as we're tracking temperatures in the 40s and 50s. Your 7-day forecast, we are tracking 2 additional cold fronts, but these are not additional rounds of precipitation. Right now, I have only about a 10% chance on Monday, but notice your daytime highs on Monday are still safely above freezing in the upper 40s. I've been saying it all morning. I'm trying to give you a silver lining. 60s in the forecast for the afternoon on Wednesday of next week. Chris, how are those roads looking this morning?
I thought it would be 60 at the end of that 7-day forecast. I am ready for it. It's cold out there. If you do have to step outside, we recommend staying indoors. But if you do have to get out on the roadways, you want to give yourself extra time and extra distance between you and the car in front of you. A good indicator is, or a good rule of thumb is maybe a semi distance between you and the car in front of you. That way, in case that car has to stop or loses control, you're able to navigate around whatever issues you may encounter. This is in Round Rock. We're taking a live look. This is 35 north. This is near Old Settlers Road, and it's been interesting watching this over the past couple of hours. There have been some cars this looks like a little incline right here. There have been some cars as they stop at the stoplight, which have struggled to get onto this overpass here. So that means that the overpasses, the elevated surfaces are icy, not only in Williamson County, but it's extending into Travis as well as Hayes County. It looks like 35 though through here is just wet, but we're expecting that to freeze over within the next couple of hours as those temperatures continue to fall. And taking a look at this is our Oasis cam looking over Lake Travis. It's icy out there. You can kind of see some of the white in the background, a little bit of sleet that has accumulated on the rooftops of the houses and the hills, and then you can see we have that glaze of ice on our tower cam due to the freezing rain that we saw a little bit earlier this morning. Taking a look at the conditions out there, we have icy roads that have extended all the way into areas east of I-35. So all of I-35, Georgetown, Round Rock, Austin, Kyle, Buda, San Marcos, dealing with those potentially icy roadways, especially the elevated roadways. And as you work your way farther west of 281, that's where we have the worst road conditions. Some roads are nearly impassable out there. So that's something that we are continuing to monitor. But luckily, a lot of people, due to the pandemic, due to just precautionary measures, have stayed inside. They're off the road. So we haven't seen, knock on wood, any big issues in terms of accidents across the area. There have been some minor accidents, but those have really cleared up. There's a stalled vehicle between Buda and Austin on I-35 southbound, but that's really all that we have going on across the area. Where you see the oranges, the yellows, that's likely due to the icy as well as wet roadways out there, just kind of slowing what traffic is out there down a little bit, but everything looking pretty good. Notice though in Austin, our temperature just fell another degree. So we started out above freezing around 3 this morning. Those temperatures have fallen below freezing. We were at 32 for a couple hours. We were at 31. Now we are down to 30 degrees. And that's concerning because those temperatures are continuing to fall across the area. So where you see temperatures at 32 or colder, that is likely meaning that your roadways are going to be icy, especially the elevated surfaces. And where you have temperatures ranging from 23 to 28, roadways are likely icy at this point. So again, you want to make sure you stay off the roadways. Looking at radar, not only do we have the wet road conditions from the moisture this morning, we're seeing more freezing rain and sleet, possibly some snow in the hill country move over the area. And with those temperatures continuing to decrease, that means the road conditions are only going to get worse throughout the day into your Friday morning. So you want to make sure you are playing it safe out there. Stay indoors if you can. If you have to get out on the roadway, if it's an emergency or you do have to go to work, you'll want to make sure you give yourself some extra time on the roadway, again, extra space between you and the car in front of you. And it's good to pack a safety kit like Shane was mentioning. Have something in your car. Make sure your phone is charged. You want to have water, non-perishable food items, something to keep you warm in case for some reason you do get stranded on the roadway. I know when I came into work this morning, I first off was driving very slowly, but I packed my ski bibs, my snow boots, my gloves, all of that in case my vehicle got stranded and I had to walk somewhere. So I brought all those items with me in my car, and I'll have them with me as I leave to go check on my dog a little bit later. You just want to make sure you're playing it safe out there. Not only are we dealing with the icy road conditions, but we also have some flooding across the area. More than 60 low water closures across central Texas due to the heavy rain we saw overnight along I-35. So Hayes, as well as Travis, Williamson County saw 1 to 2 inches of rain overnight. That is coupled with the 3 to 4 inches we saw earlier in the week. So we're seeing that flooding. There's already been at least one high water rescue in the area. So you want to make sure you're playing it safe. If you come across a roadway that is covered by water, you want to make sure you turn around. It doesn't take much water at all to stall a vehicle and wash it off of the roadway. So make sure you're playing it safe out there. Stay inside, grab some hot cocoa, some coffee, bundle up, watch some Netflix, watch us, and be safe. Nah, we are going to toss a break. We may be coming back here in just a little bit. Be safe, folks.
Your time. Thanks for joining us. There are a few Austinites without power. We want to update you on the Austin Energy Power Outage map, reporting now 400 people without power right now. We've seen as many as 1,300 to 2,300 people without power this morning. So right now, that number at 400 is looking pretty okay.
Yeah, statewide looking at 67,000, so certainly looking good in Central Texas. Now, if you do need a place to get warm, Austin and Travis County have community shelters available this morning. They will be open 24 hours a day while conditions permit. They opened actually just about 7 minutes ago. They open at 9 a.m. They're listed on your screen right now. You can find the full list. You can find the addresses on our website, KVUE.com.
And a reminder, Cap Metro is suspending its services today due to the weather. However, emergency transportation service support will still be in place to assist with emergency response efforts from the Emergency Operations Center. Cap Metro will also supply buses that will help get people to those warming shelters we just mentioned. Also, sometime this afternoon, we'll be able to find out from Cap Metro if they're going to suspend services tomorrow as well.
And take a look at this video from North Austin right now. Things looking, well, pretty good. And pretty good. Bare. What I like to see is bare. Just one car. And we do like to see that because the thing we've been pressing all morning long about is if you don't need to get on the road, don't do it.
Absolutely. You know, let's get an update on the weather conditions.
That's right. So actually, we just recently received some video, isn't that right, Chris, of what appeared to be snow out in Mason County, which verifies we expected some of our hill country counties, especially just toward the northern edge, was going to have that potential for some snow flurries. Actually looked very beautiful. Still waiting on confirmation from the National Weather Service because it's kind of difficult to see if there's that accumulation between snow and sleet. Oh, Chris, it's okay. We're doing team coverage here. We can all slide into the same shot. Hey, we're taking a look at that satellite radar across the area. As I mentioned, I do see from that video what looked like some snow flurries for Mason County. Would not be surprised if a few isolated areas out there started to see some additional snow. That is not going to be the weather story for today. In fact, we're going to be tracking freezing rain and sleet. Temperatures below freezing in Austin. You've now dropped to 30 degrees. LaGrange is sitting at 34. As we're mentioning, widespread reports of freezing rain and sleet. We're going to continue to monitor throughout the rest of the morning and afternoon and have updates on air and online. Chris, how are the roads looking?
Shane, I was getting excited. I had to come hop in front of your shot. It is icy out there, so if you do have to get outside, we recommend first off not to get on the roadways, but if you have to, you want to make sure you are giving yourself extra time. Icy roads really across the entire area, especially along and west of I-35. We're dealing with not only the icy bridges and overpasses, but some of the surface roadways as well are starting to ice over, especially as you work your way west of 281. That's where we've had that prolonged freeze, and those temperatures and precipitation have continued throughout the duration of the morning. And here in Austin, we are noticing there's really not much traffic out there, which has really alleviated any road conditions. Temperatures are continuing to fall, so those road conditions are going to continue to deteriorate. We're about to end our wall-to-wall coverage, but we will continue to have cut-ins every 30 minutes. Be safe, folks.
Hello, Austin. None of us will ever forget last winter's Snowmageddon. While no one is predicting we'll ever see that again, you shouldn't be reminded of it every time you walk past your cold and drafty windows and doors. Call Window World of Austin today and let us improve your home with our lifetime warranty high-performance windows and doors so you can enjoy the season while staying warm and cozy inside your home.
Nothing to be afraid of. It's only a trap door.
Election 2020. It's a real show.
This is ridiculous. What are you guys doing? Let's go play some football. We're busy.
What are you guys watching?
Get out of my business.
Why don't you come down here? Say that to me.